Let's look at the composition of functions in this video. It is quite possible to have a function that has been made up of a combination of other functions. The function that is going to be a combination of the functions in this case is going to be h of x. And I'm going to show you how it's a combination of g of x and f of x. You can see that in g of x, where I would have had an x, I'm now going to replace that with the expression for f of x. Well, what is the expression for f of x? That is when I had 2x. So in other words, what I'm going to do to get h of x, I'm going to take the g of x function, and where there was an x, I'm going to replace that with 2 of x. So h of x is going to be g of x with f of x in the place of x, which means that I have 2x plus 5. In the last example, you saw that I wrote h of x as g of f of x. Another notation for this is if I say f little circle g of x. What I'm actually saying there is take the function f and in the place of x, substitute g of x. So you can see that that's going to be quite different to what I'm looking for in B, because in B, I'm going to take the function g, and in the g's graph, in the place of x, I'm going to put f of x. So let's get the answers for A and B. In A, I must take my f graph, and in the place of x, in the f graph, I'm going to replace it with g of x. In other words, let's call our new function h of x, which is in fact going to be f of g of x, is going to be when I take the f graph and in the place of x, I put g of x. In other words, this graph, this function, is going to be x squared minus 2x plus 1. And similarly, if I try with number B, in B, my new graph, h of x, must be the combination graph when I start with a g of x graph, and in the place of x, I'm going to substitute f of x. If I highlight this differently now, I now have to take a look and see what am I going to replace instead of x in the g of x graph. Well, the x of g of x is here, and that must now be replaced with the whole expression for f of x, which is this expression over here. In other words, in this graph, I'm going to have x squared minus 1. You can see that putting g into f or f into g does definitely not give you the same result.